Excellent choice.
Hello, I'm back in my kitchen and I'm looking through my frozen produce drawer and I have all these vegetables. Some I prepped myself and froze, others I just store-bought, like these green beans and this chopped spinach. And I've got onions and leeks and green onions, green peppers, pretty much anything, corn. So I want to make a soup. And the other day I made a mushroom-based soup and a cauliflower-based soup as well, cauliflower mushroom. So I'm going to make a soup out of that and pick some of these vegetables. So I'll meet you back over at my counter and we'll see what we can put together. So I also have this can of organic bean trio that I'm going to use for making some burger patties. And in here I chopped up all the rehydrated shiitake mushrooms, and they have a very firm meat-like texture. So I want to make some burgers out of those. But here I have the cauliflower and mushroom base broth, and over here I have the mushroom base broth. So excuse my messy kitchen, but I'm in the middle of cooking things. So let's make some soup. First of all, let me show you the consistency of my mushrooms, and this will be another recipe. Right now I'm going to concentrate on making the soup, and I'm going to use my little Kasori 3.5 quart cooker because it's just me, so I don't need a lot of food. But if you're a family, then of course do as you need to do. So I'm going to pour all this broth, and hopefully it'll all fit into this little pot. And hopefully this will be tasty. I don't see why it wouldn't be. And it does all fit, so that's good. And then I'm going to pick some vegetables from my array of frozen. Yes, I'm still in my jammies. It's still morning. So I'll be right back and get my veggies. So I make up these little bags of frozen vegetables whenever I have a little bit of veggies that are either starting to go bad or I have too much of. So this is celery, and I'm going to add some of that because celery is always good in a vegetable soup. And you guys know I'm vegetarian and I cook mostly vegan, but I do cook some vegetarian dishes. So this will be vegan. So a little bit of celery. I have some red peppers that I froze. That would be good in here as well. So I'm going to use some of those. And I'm trying to basically get my freezers to the point where they're not so crammed full that I can't find what's in there anymore. And usually what I do is I squeeze all the air out of these. They're just regular freezer bags. And then I flatten it so that it's easier to store in my freezer and it doesn't take up as much room as a big ball of vegetables. So there's that, and I have a lot of leeks that have been frozen. I'm going to put all these in there because leeks make a really good soup. So I'll put all those in there. And I have several other bags of these. So if you cook with leeks, and usually they come like in a pack of 3, and you don't use all of them, clean them and then cut them up and put them in the freezer, and you'll always have leeks for soup. So these are some green peppers. I'm going to put a few of those in. Not too many. I like peppers, but sometimes I think too much of it tends to give a little bit of a bitter taste. So there's the peppers, and I'm going to use up these mixed veggies. I always have mixed vegetables around. They're good for all kinds of dishes. So this is getting pretty full, so I'm not going to put the whole bag in. And that already has green beans in it, so I was going to put some green beans in, but since that has green beans in it, I'm not going to. So this is pretty full, and I may put some pasta in here later. I'm not sure yet. I was going to put a potato in, but this is really too full. So, yeah, if you have broth laying around and freezer veggies that you don't know what to do with, make yourself a nice little soup. So there you go, and I'll be right back. So I have here some Veggie seasoning, and this is very popular in Germany. I have this huge bottle that I bought down in Amish country, and it has a soy, not a soy flavor, soy sauce type flavor, but it's a little richer. So I'm going to put a little of that in here, just for taste. And this broth was already lightly seasoned, so I'm going to call that good, and I can always add more seasonings down the road. So I'm going to cook this on the soup setting on my little pressure cooker. And it was very easy peasy recipe for soup. And I might add, sorry about that, I might add some of these beans, but I want to use at least half of them with my burgers. So I'll be back when the soup is done, and we'll see if it turned out. Okay, while I'm waiting for my soup to cook, I have some textured vegetable protein here, which I'm rehydrating with a little bit of vegan Worcestershire sauce. I think I said that right. And also some water. So I'm just letting that rehydrate and for a few minutes, and then I'm going to put that in with my chopped up mushrooms. Another thing I'm going to put in here, I have some walnuts, and I put a little bit of sea salt in with them, chop them up, sort of like a hamburger consistency, and that's also going in there, just to give it a little crunch, a little bite, because I don't want a mushy burger. So that's going to go in, and hopefully my pressure cooker isn't in the way here. Move that a little bit out of the way, and move this up a little bit. So we're putting that all together, and I'm going to put a few seasonings in with this too. And I'm trying to make this a very high protein burger. So with the textured vegetable protein, which is a soy product, and with the nuts, and they're all high protein. So if I'm going to eat a burger, then I want the protein that I'm missing because I don't eat meat. So another thing I want to put in there because of B vitamins is some nutritional yeast, because if you're on a plant-based diet, it is a little harder to get B vitamins. So I'm going to put in, about a quarter cup, which is 3 tablespoons. So about a quarter cup. And some people don't like nutritional yeast. I do. It has some cheesy flavor, so, you know, cheesy flavor on a burger is great as far as I'm concerned. So I'm also going to make a little flax egg. So I'll be back in a minute when I get all my spices and things done. All right, I have some beetroot powder here, and I'm going to add, just for color and a little extra nutrition, because beets are good for you, I'm going to add, a tablespoon of that. And then I tried something different, because you know how I love to experiment. So this is flax meal, 2 tablespoons, and instead of using a lot of water, I use the juice from the can of beans. Now it is a little thick, so I'm going to add a little bit more water to it, because this will need water too. So in here I have my TVP, my walnuts, my ground up mushrooms, a little bit of Muggy seasoning, some Worcestershire sauce. But I want to add a little bit more seasoning to this. And then I'm going to add a little water just to make it a consistency where it'll stick together. Because right now it's just like crumbles. And for those of you that are grossed out by hamburger, this looks pretty darn much like hamburger to me. But it's not. No animals were hurt in the process. So I'm going to add a little bit more seasoning. I have some of this umami seasoning from Trader Joe's. Taste it before you use it, because it's very salty, but it's very tasty. So I'm not going to use too much, just a couple sprinkles. I'm going to add some just black pepper, and I get these grinders at the Dollar Tree, and they have salt and pepper grinders. So I'm going to add that. And I'm going to add half a can of these organic bean trios, and these are from Whole Foods. You can get these online at Whole Foods, or if you're lucky enough to have a Whole Foods near you. Amazon will deliver if you have, I think, $30 worth. Could be $35, I can't remember. But they will deliver. If you have Prime, it'll be free delivery. So, like I said, I want to put as much protein into these burgers as possible. So that's why I'm adding beans. And then I'm going to need some sort of a flour. So I think I'm going to use an oat flour. And you can grind your own out of oatmeal, but I do have some oat flour too. So I'm going to add some of that, but I have to get it. All right, I'm going to add even more protein. I'm going to add some of this Anthony's pea protein powder. And I'm going to add a couple tablespoons of that. This will help bind it too. Or a couple tablespoons. So in that goes. And this will make several burgers that you can freeze. And then I have oatmeal flour. I'm going to add a couple tablespoons of that as well. And then I'll see after I add the flax egg if I need more or more water. It's hard to judge when you're first mixing it. And then actually to this flax egg I added a teaspoon and a half of onion powder and a teaspoon of garlic powder. And I can see right here I'm going to need some water. So I'm going to add a little bit of water to this before I add it to my burger. Because the bean juice that I used from the canned beans was pretty thick. So that was a good 2 tablespoons of water. And I'm going to need some liquid for the mixture here anyway. So that's a much better consistency. And then this is to replace egg. but you can also add an egg in here if you're vegetarian and you eat eggs. But if you're vegan, add a flax egg. So I'm going to add that in. I let this sit for, 10 minutes or so to thicken up. And then I'm going to see if I need additional water after I mix this. So I'll be back when I get to the point where I'm going to make the burgers. Okay, my soup is done. I always put a cloth over when I let the steam out, so it doesn't make such a mess, because if you have a full pressure cooker, it does tend to spurt out a little bit. So I always put a damp dishcloth over that. So I'm going to let this cool off, and I'm going to make some burgers. Okay, so here's my mixture, and I'm thinking it's a little wetter than what I want it to be, so I'm going to add half a cup of just regular oats in with it, and maybe a quarter cup. I'll start with quarter of a cup, and with clean hands I'm going to just mix that in, and then I'm going to have to let it sit and hydrate for a little bit. And I'm going to need the whole half of a cup, and oatmeal adds a great texture to faux meats. And also, I don't know if any of you eat savory oatmeal, but you can make a faux sausage out of it. You can put it in your faux sausages. So oatmeal is very versatile. And a lot of people do like savory oatmeal. It doesn't always have to be sweet. You can add it to your meatloaf. Even if you eat meat, you can add it to meatloaf and hamburgers and anything like that where you want to stretch your dollar, since meat is getting to be ridiculously expensive. So I'm just going to let this hydrate for a while. And then I'm going to bake some, and I'm going to fry a couple in avocado oil and see how it turns out. I think it will be good. I've made bean burgers similar to this before, but this is the first time I've tried the dehydrated mushrooms, and so I'll leave a link to the video where I make the mushroom broth. Okay, so I'll be back when this is all set to go. Alright, my soup is done. I'm going to add the rest of this can of beans, this half a can, and I'm going to also put some noodles in here. Just a handful. So there's the beans, and I have some egg noodles here, and I'm just going to add and stir up, and then I'm going to close the lid again so that these noodles will cook. And if they don't cook all the way through, then I will turn it back on and cook it, but this should at least cook it most of the way through. I'm also going to add a little bit of pepper, and I already tasted it. It does need a little salt, so we'll put some pepper in there, and I'm going to put some Lowry's seasoned salt in, because that always gives a good flavor. Not too much, because it was already seasoned. And I have a tendency sometimes to oversalt my food, so I have to be careful. So that was about 1/3 of a bag of pasta, and I'm using egg noodles. So if you're vegan, just don't use the egg noodles. So I'm going to close this up before it cools down too much. And that'll be good for a few dinners or lunches. and it hardly costs me anything. All right, so I'm heating up my oil here, my avocado oil, and I don't like my burgers real thick, so I'm just going to fry one up and have it maybe for lunch or dinner, and then I'm going to bake some too. So let's see if this is good. I mean, the consistency right now is good, but I'm hoping it's not a mushy burger. So actually I'll make a couple. So we'll see, but I like the consistency of the rehydrated shiitake mushrooms. They're very inexpensive. I got them at the Asian store. I did a little haul the other day from the Asian store. If I remember, I'll put that video up in the cards or down in the description box. So this burger has a lot of protein. So if you're struggling and you don't have enough to eat, you have food anxiety, learn to make some plant-based meals too. You know, you don't have to give up meat if that's not what you want to do. But it's always a good idea to know an alternate form of protein. So they look pretty good. I'm going to let these cook up and I'll be back once they're done. Okay, so here's the 2 burgers that I fried up. I've got 4 of them in the oven that I'm baking to see which I like better, and then I still have some left over. So I wanted to taste this without putting it on a burger to see just the flavor. So I'm not putting this one on a bun, I'm just going to taste it. So let's see. Here's what it looks like. Looks pretty good. It's pretty darn tasty. It's not real mushy. It's not as firm as I wanted it to be, but it really has a good flavor. And you can put any seasonings you want in here. Make it in a taco. You could fry this up, not put it in a burger. Season it up with some taco seasoning. That would work. Put some cheese on it. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. So I want to see next how the baked burger is. So I'm going to save this other one for my dinner tonight. I have a little bit of gravy left that I made the other day in my cooking video. Again, if I remember, I'll put that video below or up in the cards. So I'll be back when I try the fry one. Alright, so here's my soup. The noodles are cooked just right. So let me give this a taste, and it's very hot. But I'm going to give it a taste. Could use a little salt, but it's very flavorful. And here again, you can put in any seasonings you want in a soup. You can put in taco seasoning, you can add some salsa to this. Just, you know, soup is endless flavor combinations. It's cheap, it's very healthy. So if you're running out of food and you have some bits of this and that, make yourself a healthy soup. And always make sure that you save your veggie scraps. Get yourself a bag, put your veggie scraps in the freezer. And when you have enough, make yourself a broth. If you're a meat eater and you buy those rotisserie chickens, or even Thanksgiving time now and you make a turkey or whatever it is you eat, pork bones, beef bones, make a stock. Don't throw those away. Even after it's been cooked, you can still make a stock out of it. So put the whole carcass in, take off any meat that's left, and there's instant stock. So, and all you need is a pot. All right, I'll be back in a little bit when my other burgers are done. All right, so I just took my burgers out of the oven, 350 for 30 minutes, and around when there's around 10 minutes left, you flip them over. So you bake them a half an hour altogether. So let's see this. Okay. So I can tell right away this burger is much firmer than the one I fried in the pan. So it depends on what consistency that you like in your burger. So I'm going to give this a taste. This one has more of a meat-like consistency. The other one is more like a bean burger. They're both good, very good. I like it. I will make them again for sure. But this baked burger is definitely firmer. So I think I prefer this one. And like I said, I don't like my burgers real thick. I like them on the thinner side. So then you can put some cheese on these, some vegan cheese, whatever your heart desires. Get yourself some buns, butter the buns, and toast them maybe with a little garlic powder on top. That would be really good. So I'm going to eat this for lunch, and I'm pretty full, 2 burgers and a little bit of soup, but it's been a very productive day of cooking. So I have meals again for 3 or 4 days, and all it took was one morning of prep work. Okay, one more dish I'm going to make, and I took some of my burger stuff that I just made, and I have some pineapple salsa floating around in the fridge. It was very good. I want to use it up. So I'm making some taco meat out of the burger meat we just made. So to this I added, I don't have a ton here, but this is plenty for at least a couple of tacos. I have some wraps, taco wraps, that I want to use up as well. So to this I added a little bit, like a 1/4 teaspoon, because it's a small amount, of paprika, 1/4 teaspoon of chili powder, and a 1/4 teaspoon of cumin, and you can do this to taste. And then I added some garlic powder and onion powder. So I'm just going to add a little bit of oil. Now if you're oil free, leave the oil out. The oil will give it a little bit more of a mouthfeel, a little richer mouthfeel. And I'm using avocado oil because it's a high heat oil, and I got this little bottle from, guess where, the Dollar Tree. So I'm going to cook that up and just fry it up a little bit, and then I'm going to save it for some tacos that I'll have this week sometime too. So I'll be back when this is all done. Now if you have it, you can add a little Tony Chachere's seasoning. That'll give it a little bit of heat, or you could, whatever seasoning you like. But I don't like too much heat, so I'm just going to give it a tiny little bit. because Mexican cooking does have a little bit of heat. But a little of that goes a long way for me. So I'm just going to let this cook on medium heat to dry it out a little bit. And then I'll be ready for another meal. Okay, so this is done. Very flavorful. So when you're doing cooking like this, find what spices that you like. If you're a new cook, or you don't really know how to stretch your money too well, figure out that the spices that you like the most. And then take basic ingredients. There we go. And then take basic ingredients and mix and match them. Find out what spice combinations you like. Go online, go on YouTube. There's tons of videos on mixing spices, or come up with your own designer spices. But most of us have certain spices that we use all the time. For me, it's onion powder, garlic powder. I like tahini. I use that a lot. I like cumin. So figure out the spices you like, and then build your meals around that and certain basic ingredients that you can mix and match. And you'll have an endless array of food that you won't get bored, and it'll be tasty and nutritious. And don't always rely on prepackaged foods and takeout, things like that. So learn to cook. That's the best thing you can do for yourself as far as health goes. All right, I'll taste these tacos and then I'm going to call it a day. So this is fairly dried out now, which is what I wanted. So I did add a little tiny bit of tahini to this, and the Tony's, just a touch, and the other spices, paprika, cumin, chili powder, onion powder, garlic powder. Very good. That'll make a really good taco. All right, that's it for the hamburger meat. So I got 1, 2, let's see. I have 3 more of these in the oven. So that's 7, and I ate 2, 8, 9. I got 9 burgers, and some of these I'm going to freeze. A couple of them I'll keep out for my meals. And then the soup, that's enough for at least 4 meals. So that's a lot of food. And it hardly cost anything. So if you're a meat eater, you can do the same thing. It doesn't have to be necessarily plant-based. You don't have to cook the whole thing and just eat spaghetti sauce for a week. You can divide it up in portions and make burgers out of some, maybe spaghetti sauce out of some, maybe taco meat out of some, and you'll have a nice variety rather than eating the same thing all week long, which gets pretty boring. I can't do that after a while. After 2 days, it's like, well, no. So then I'll freeze it, and then down the road, it'll be new to me again. So this works for all types of eating, whether you're whole foods, plant-based, whether you're a carnivore, or whether you're vegetarian. Buy yourself some basic ingredients and use those with different spices, mix and match with your carbs, and you'll always have a delicious meal. All right, my friends, this video is getting pretty long. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and get cooking. That's the best way to hedge against inflation is to find foods that you like and make combinations with the foods you like, and use your imagination. All right, my friends, I want to wish you abundant blessings. I love you guys. Take care of yourself, take care of others. God bless you, and I'll see you next time.
If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, comment, and like. Thanks for watching.